Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's session. I went through the entire spiel of doing the music, counting things down, introducing the polls, and I realized that the one thing we didn't do was click the live button. And so I apologize for that. Hi, we're going to jump into the session pretty quickly here. We're not going to make you wait the 5 minutes because I already did. So thank you so much for holding on the line. Uh, this is the first you're hearing of me, right? Making sure where I hit live. Okay, so this is the first you're hearing of me. Awesome. Cool. So thank you everybody for joining today's session here. I hope you can see me and hear me okay. Today we're discussing automations. And the first thing that I just want to mention is I have a poll open right now that I'd love if you could answer. You should see it in the chat section below. So if you click there, you can vote. I just want to get a sense of where everybody is at when it comes to automations. The question is, how well do you know automations? And there are 5 different options. First one being, I don't know how they work. So I'm a 1 out of 5. 2, I get the concept, but they're still new to me. I've looked at them, haven't set one up. 3, I've set up some already and actively use automations in my business. 4, I set them up actively for my clients and their businesses alongside using them in mine. And 5, I write webhooks, connect with APIs, run different systems in tandem for both clients and myself. Okay. Marianne gives us the 1. Okay, that's good. Awesome. Okay. And again, one more time, I'd like to apologize for the for not going live. I thought I was live the entire time. So nice to be catching up with all of you. Okay. So let's take a look at the poll results here. So I'm also taking a look at what was said in the chat. So in the chat, we had a 1 and a 3. Okay. So we've got a few folks who you know, are actively using automations. This session uh might not move mountains for you, but I'm hoping that you can take away some things that will be useful for you and your business. I think it can show you at least some things in how automations work within Vendasta. And yeah, really share some knowledge there with you. Now, for the majority, a lot of you understand the concept, but you're not using automations, or you don't know how automations work in general, and that's okay. That's kind of what we would expect. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us through a really high level example of how we can think about automations, and we're actually going to jump into the system and start solving some problems. Okay, so to introduce automations here, I want to start with a thought experiment. Okay. So I want you to think about this, right? Like, let's say that you go to turn on a lamp and the lamp doesn't work. What would you do next? Right. So there's a lamp and you go to turn it on. And as you go to turn it on, it doesn't work. What's your first step? Let me know in the chat. What would you do? Okay. So Justin would say, look at the plug, right? It's a great answer. So in this idea of an automation here, right? I think that logic makes a lot of sense. So the lamp doesn't work. You're going to go through a series of steps to see what you need to do. And so the first logical question is checking if it's plugged in, right? And if it's not plugged in, what would you do? You'd plug it in and then you'd try it again. Does it work? And let's say that doesn't work. So the lamp is plugged in and it still doesn't work. What's the next thing you would do? Right? Got a lamp. It depends. Some lamps this won't apply to, but let's say you have a lamp, with the lampshade and everything. What would you do? Yeah. So Carl says check the light bulb, which is exactly what I think would be the next logical step. Is the bulb burned out? That's the next thing that we would do, right? And so if it is burned out, we replace the bulb, or we just replace the bulb anyways and just see what happens, right? And if the bulb isn't burned out, right, you changed it before, maybe you need to repair the entire lamp. Maybe you have to look at the wall socket and fix something there. Maybe the breaker flipped. Lots of things can happen, but this is an example of the flow of instructions and logic that can happen in an automation. So with automations, we need to define these different steps here. And so these steps are called trigger, logic, and action steps. So triggers are the things that start the automation. They're always listening, waiting for the start of an automation. And triggers are probably the most important thing to consider when building automations because you want it to trigger at the right times and you want it to take the actions that you would expect. From here, you have logic steps. If you look to see if the lamp is plugged in, you're not going to unplug it and plug it back in. You're just going to go on to the next step, which is checking if it's burned out. And so these logic steps kind of create these crossroads for you where you can take a certain set of actions or another set of actions based on some type of logic. And finally, we have action steps, the actual things that you will do uh, to take the next steps. And I know that we're talking about ourselves and how we would look at this lamp. But if you think about it, that's kind of an automation for us, right? Like when we come across technology, if we come across a lamp that doesn't work, we want it to work, we expect it to work. These are the steps that we would take. We're kind of running an automation because it's logical. It makes sense for us to do this order of operations. But when it comes to computers, they don't have a sense of what the next logical step will be until we fully complete AGI, at which point that'll be a different story. But for right now with AI, it's still, even with AI and those sorts of things, it still needs some human led guidance, a prompt, right? For automations, a computer needs to be told what to do, what to listen for, and what actions to take. And this is the overall sense of an automation. So if you kind of get lost, you don't know what an automation, like as we start talking about automations, if it gets confusing, come back to this example, right? This example is actually taken right from Wikipedia. This is Wikipedia's approach to automations, and it's one that makes a lot of sense to me. When we talk about automations within the system, though, right? Uh, there are a couple of things that you can do, right? We're talking about workflow automation, and those are manual tasks across the platform that you would do, like creating sales cadences of sales tasks, 2 calls a week after a demonstration, or setting an onboarding campaign when a product is purchased, and creating sales tasks in the CRM to check in on your customer, or taking the defined processes you've created and putting them on autopilot. And there's a few things to consider when we go into that. But ultimately, I just want you to remember. Sorry, I had the music going there. If we just take that and remember that at the end of the day, this will be your guiding light here for what automations are. And the automation system that we have is extremely versatile. And in fact, the automations you will build will have a different range of versatility. Sometimes you will have very simple 2 step automations. When a user is added to an account, add the account to new accounts list. Super simple, right? You can have simple ones that basically do a single action, or you can have really complex workflows that wait at specific steps and they branch on conditions and loop a certain number of times, effectively programming through our user interface. Uh, we've had coworkers here who have actually created automations that flicker the lights and changes a Spotify song anytime a partner would claim a product. It was a fun demo to show what you could do with the automation system. And the best part is simple or complex automations will use a combination of all of those 3 building blocks to create a workflow, or at least 2 of them. And so again, this is the flow, right? We have trigger steps, logic steps, and action steps. When this happens, an opportunity is created or changed. For example, let's say you have a sales opportunity, you're tracking it in a pipeline. And when an opportunity is created or changed, you could do things like wait a number of days, or if this is true, you could do some action and perform this action. But logic steps are very useful once you get into decision making when you need an input before your next output. For example, let's say that you create some sales tasks, and if your customer purchases a product, but you have sales tasks to go and reach out to that client of yours and keep selling it, you'd probably want to cancel it. You've already purchased it, right? It wouldn't make a lot of sense. So that's where logic can be super useful. And then we also have a uh, simple action step: create a sales task. Now, uh, all you need in a fully functioning automation is a trigger to kick it off and an action to do. We'll go over logic steps a little bit later. But first, I think we got to get into the platform and look at triggers. All right. So hopefully, if you're a level one at automations, you followed along until here. I hope the rest makes sense to you as we're building your knowledge. This is where we're going to get into the level two side of automation. Okay. Where you're less familiar with automations, you understand the concept, but hey, I need to build out some automations. And Justin, yesterday you had a really good example of an automation around the web chat leads. I believe, and correct me if I was wrong, you had asked, "Hey, every time we get a web chat lead, is it possible to get a notification like an email sent to me?" Is that correct, Justin? Let me know if that was in the ballpark. 'Cause I actually think that's a really good starting point for us. Okay. So I'll wait a minute or two here for a response from Justin. Maybe he's here, maybe he's not. But we're going to continue moving on, taking our next steps here. All right. So I'm jumping into the platform and we're going to build an automation together. Okay. So Justin says this would be part of the question, but more accurately, is it possible to have it forward to an email? Uh, so Justin, you're looking to get the web chat lead information forwarded to an email, like their phone number, their name, those sorts of things. You have all the information directly in your email. You don't have to open up the CRM to check it out, right? Cool. So, all right. So, and he's even provided an email. That's great. Let's try and build that automation. Okay. So let's take a look. When we go to the automation system here in Partner Center, this is where you're working out of every single day. You're going to see that when you click on automations, you have a couple of options. First, you have automation history. It just goes and shows you all the things that have been happening in your automation ecosystem. You have templates where you can create templates. Maybe if you have a good starting point, but want a couple of different things across them, you can define templates, right? So you can create some of those for your clients as well. So you can actually take these templates, create some for your clients. We'll get into that later. I don't want to talk about automations for business app yet. We will towards the end of the session. We have these system automations that are enabled by default, and you can actually see how we built them. And it does things like create an account for the company, add a follow-up task, a couple of like core automations, finder system. And then we have the my automations section. Now, when I look at the my automations section here, I want you to tell me when you're looking at the screen, which automation should we jump into here? We've got some information here on the columns, right? We have the status and the tags and the trigger. But I have a problem with this. Uh, my problem with this is that we have a lot of untitled automations. And I see so many partners who get into automations having just so many untitled automations that it actually gets kind of hard to find their real automations. And so, a best practice here is to name your automations, right? Because look at how many untitled automations we have. This is just a full page of untitled automations. So, we're going to follow some of those best practices. Now, two options here, right? I could go up to the top right corner and I can hit create automation. I could get started right there. We also have the templates gallery here. And these are the recipe cards that we have that you could start with really quickly. And so let's take a quick look here to see if there exists an automation similar to what Justin is asking for, because maybe we could start from there. So let's see. We have, and I actually don't know if we have this. So we're doing this live. Uh, Notify your team about opportunity changes. Okay, so I don't think we have something is here. Create an account when a company. Okay. Notify your team when a user is active. So we have something that's close, but we're probably going to want to build from scratch. So you could see this automation and what it does. When a user is active in business app and the account has done this more than one time in a day, notify the salesperson and log activity with a hotness rating of 1 flame for the account. Cool. So, all right, we can't find what we're looking for here. So we can start from a blank canvas. That's what we're going to do. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the blank canvas to start from, right? So the blank automation. And on this screen, we can see what is the title for the automation, who it's made by, the notes. We should edit those details. And I like to do this first, right? Uh, I think it's best to define the goal and the title and the description and then try to build it rather than trying to build something and working backwards. At least we could start with a little bit. So, how about we just do this? We know that we want to notify Justin when a web chat lead is captured. That is our description. And this is a lead capture. So let's do lead capture. It's a CRM automation. It's sales. And so we're going to save that. So super simple. That's the idea. I just want you to start like the first thing you should do whenever you start an automation is name it. That way you can find it. That way, when you come to an office hour session with us, looking to learn more about the automation you built, we're not going through 30 untitled automations just to find the one you're working on. And not only that, your goal is now defined. You know what you're trying to do. It's easy to get distracted with the shiny object. Okay, and so here we have all of our triggers. And remember, a trigger is what kicks off the automation. It's the first step that really starts the dominoes falling in order, right? So you have all your dominoes stacked up. Well, what is the push? Okay. So here we were talking about having the inbox, right? So we could say, okay, maybe when we have, oh, it's here exactly. So web chat captures a lead. This is going to be the trigger. So when web chat captures a lead, we are now going to do the following things. And this is where we have to define what those things are. So we can go and we can create some action steps. And if we scroll down, we'll find all the logic steps, which are indicated by this purple. Right now, given what Justin has asked for, we don't need logic steps, but maybe we can come back and add some logic later. So when web chat captures the lead, let's notify an admin. Okay. And so let's see. Do we have a Justin here? We got Justin admin. That's perfect with the email you showed, Justin. Okay, so we've got an admin here named Justin admin, and the step is to notify Justin, right? Their step. And we can see here that we can create an in-app notification, we can create an email notification. We can set the priority. Let's call it high priority because we just captured the lead. In-app, you've got mail or you've got a new lead. I'm young enough that I never used AOL, Yahoo, but one of those things where I still know it. It's such pop culture, right? And so this is the in-app notification. Okay, great, right? You've got a new lead. It will show up in your notification section. But what I'm more interested in is basically what Justin has asked. Hey, can I get the information forwarded to my email? So Justin admin is going to contain that email, admin@domain.com. Check this out. When it comes to the subject, let's say new lead and or how about web capture? And all we're going to do is we're going to put the first name of the lead and the phone number. So if you were literally just looking at the subject lines in your emails, you would know exactly what actions to take. So what we can do is we can go and we can grab a dynamic field. If you remember from the email campaigns, it's similar, but you actually have to pull it from the trigger. And so we have to grab the contact ID and go and grab the first name. So we're going to add it. It's going to add this big, long dynamic field box to the system here. We're going to then also add their phone number. So we're going to go from a previous step, trigger, contact ID, and we will add the phone number. So phone number. And so when that lead comes across, it will say web capture Brady Lang, comma 306-955-5512. That will be the subject every single time. And that's going to arrive in your inbox, Justin. Now we can also write some more details, right? So we could say, hey, in our we could have something like check out the new lead. Check out the new lead. Okay. And from here, right, you can do all sorts of things. You can add all sorts of things, but we're just going to keep this really simple. Check out the new lead. We're going to have a button that says the captured lead. So if you want to go into the system to learn more, you can, and we'll take you to, I don't know if this will work. So I'm a little curious right now. So, see. To the chat summary. Okay. So you would be able to work this out. You would just go partners.vendasta.com slash, and then you would take some information here from the trigger. But I'm just going to say this as it is for right now. And so, Justin, if we were to turn this on, this would work for you. Okay. I know that it's not your real email. I know that this is a user we have in our system. I don't want to turn it on and spam them. But this is a really simple automation that does exactly what you asked. And it takes the different parts of Vendasta and ties it together in the ways you want. And so for you, Justin, this is something you can set up right away. You can start using. Now, I have one more best practice whenever you create an automation, and that is you need to edit the description because it's also going to show up. And so we have AI that will generate the description for you. This automation triggers a notification named Notify Justin when a contact is created via web chat, sends an email containing specific content to the designated recipient. Wonderful. If you want, you can add some goals here. And so if you have a specific, goal that needs to happen, then you can stop it immediately. But already, this is a pretty awesome, simple, straightforward automation, right? Now, we can also choose a couple of things. First, we can choose, when a contact meets the trigger criteria more than once, run this automation. So let's say that your web chat captured a lead who came over on forms and also through the web chat, and also maybe they came through text message. So the question is, do you want to have 3 emails or 1 email? It's your choice, Justin, because you can have it so it's only once per contact, multiple times per contact, or 1 at a time per contact, in which case only the first 2 are relevant. We also have some error handling, and we have some configuration with the time zone. So Justin said he only wants it once. So for Justin's custom automation here, we're going to do that. We're going to subscribe to the error notifications here. And right away, I could turn this on and it would just work. And that's fantastic, right? We have now built out that automation. Now, let's say that we wanted to actually make this a little bit more advanced. Actually, let me stop here. Any questions about this process of defining an automation? And I love doing this live because when we go back and forth like this, it creates it solves real problems and also makes it relevant to you guys. So Tyler asked, in regards to the web chat, if a client were to go through a good amount of questions, that would generate great info and the client leaves the page. Will that information be submitted? Yes, absolutely. So it will be submitted. Yeah, it will be submitted. Now, one of the things that I would say is you probably want to set it so that your chatbot is at least capturing their first name, right? So that when it creates a contact, you know who that is. You probably want it to capture the name, a phone number, or an email, like at least two of those: name, email, name, phone number, or ideally all three. And then you will have the full chat log so you can see everything that has been said. And not only that, you can also see a summary, and that summary is generated on their CRM and powerful stuff. And maybe we can actually go and look up a lead here to see what that really looks like. Okay. So, great question. Any other questions? Let me know. Hopefully that helps, Kyler. We'll look into that a little bit more to show you what that looks like. But the long answer, the short answer to that long answer is yes. Cool. I see some thumbs up. That's good. If you don't have questions, that's cool too. Put a 1 in the chat if you're ready to go on. Oh, 1 sec. Cool. I'm just going to drink of water here. Okay. So let's now look at taking this one step further. So we have this pretty awesome automation. But what if we actually wanted this automation to do more than just emailing? Emailing is great. It's a great starting point. But let's say that let's propose something. So we'll say, okay, maybe when a web chat lead is captured, we also want to start them on a campaign, an email campaign. Okay. So we could do that. But maybe we're going to add them to that campaign. Because so here's the thing. Let's pretend we have this. When we capture a web chat lead, we want to notify Justin. We expect Justin to actually go out and call them. In fact, we'll create a quick sales task here. So we'll create a CRM sales task, call, and we could go here. I've actually kind of built this out in the business app with Rabbit Groomer, so I think I can do that. It'll say call first name at this phone number. With the task body, it could say new lead, act now. It's assigned to the salesperson. It's due in 1 day. It's a high priority task, and it is a connection. So we'll save that. So we've added a sales task. So we're now increasing the complexity of this automation and making it better. So now not only do we notify Justin, but we actually create a sales task. So Justin, if you're having, dinner with your family, you miss the email, or you get so many leads because you're running a campaign, you come into the system, you can see exactly what you need to do. And our task system is something that I had a lot of input on when I was going through it. And I'm super proud of how my input was turned into action by our developers. And it is probably one of the most slick, best task managing type of functions I've ever seen in a CRM. Uh, Basically, you go to your tasks and it takes you to the exact page of the CRM where the sales task is assigned. So you're just kind of like handling your calls, you're doing your work. You just hit next, next, reschedule, next. It's fantastic. It is so good. And so, uh, if you want to just deal with it when you come into work the next day, well, you have all your tasks sitting for you now that we have this create sales task. And you could also create more sales tasks, a cadence of sales tasks, call 1, call 2, email 1. All right, you get the idea. But we said we want to send an email campaign. So let's say that we want to send an email campaign, but we want to send the correct email campaign based on something about them. So what we'll do here is we can add logic steps. And I'm doing this ultimately to show you, or tell you what, let's say this is a great one. Let's do an A/B branch. So something that you'll do in digital ads, something that you'll do in emails, or in a lot of things is something called an A/B test, where you don't know what campaign will perform better, or you have a couple of ideas. So why don't you test it 50-50, learn what does better, and then from there, you can take the winner. So let's say that Justin has two different ideas on how he could actually go through uh, the with email campaigns here. So we could choose percentages here, right? We're just going to go 50-50. So let's say you've got two different approaches to a campaign, Justin. And what we're going to do is create an A/B branch. So we're going to split 50% of the traffic that comes through this automation into A and the other one into B. And so we can set up an email campaign here. So send an email to contact, right? Let's just add an existing mail out there that we have. So let's say that you had written an email here. So here's your marketing template. You would go through, you would have your email. So this is your one email. You want to send a singular email. That's going to be your test, or you're going to send an entire campaign. And so with the campaign, you have one which is called the snapshot. Maybe you have the acquisition campaign snapshot report. So this campaign actually creates a snapshot report. It goes through, tell you what, I'll click on it here so you can see it. So it creates a snapshot report, and then it actually gives them a snapshot overview, shows them their reviews, listings, and teases them with their actual grades. The first email looks like this. The next email looks like that, or talks about reviews, their listings, and this is one about social, and you could also have the grade in there. So that's the campaign. And so here's the bet. You're making a bet here. You're saying, okay, maybe I don't want to create the snapshot report and tease them with the grades because I want to do that. But that could work. So how about I split it halfway? One where I invite them to a meeting directly in a really simple plain text email versus this campaign that will go out as well. Now you're still going to call them. You're still going to do that. But now the automation system is going to email them for you, and it can take in all their details. It can say, you know, hey, Brady, saw that you came through the system and you were looking to talk about whatever. So you could do all of that. You could do all that good stuff. But you know, you still have this email going out or this email campaign. That's the bet you've made. And so we're using logic to help us break this apart. Now you can also do things like we could have had logic here that says if else, right? So if else statements are all about taking something about this. So we'd say, hey, if their birth year, sorry. So if their birth year is one of, and then we could just go, this would take a little bit of time, right? So let's say that their birth year is 2002, 2003, 2004. Now, I do wish that we just had something that was like greater than, this year, but okay, so let's pretend I do all the years. So what we could do is we could have an if else. So if their birth year is after 2002, we should text them because we know that they will not call. We'll never get them on the phone. So we'll text them versus if they are younger than this, we will actually set up a sales task to call. So that's why I was laughing. I think it's hilarious. But that's the idea, right? So you can use these logic steps to help make decisions about what actions you take. Okay. So again, I want to go to edit details and regenerate the description. It's now actually talking about how it is split testing the emails. And this is our automation. I could turn it on and it will just work. But what matters here is that Justin had an idea of what he wanted first. And then I could extend it into some best practice type of things. So what have we learned about automations? Automations requires ideally a path here, like some logic. You need to know what's the trigger and what you want to get out of it. And so if the idea is, hey, I want to fix the lamp, well, then build something that will help you fix the lamp, right? If you know that you want to get contact information sent to your email in the subject line, you can build it. You just got to know that before getting into it and then try it out. And then, if you want to extend that with some best practices, like, hey, let's send a campaign email. Let's send an email right away. Let's send a text message. If they're really young, you can do that. Okay. So, if your cat is asking for, hey, What year what year were you born? I don't know. Maybe it's maybe you're doing something with uh people who are working in social media, right? So uh okay. So this is the overall idea here. We have the automation. You can easily filter it. If we look up Justin, awesome. If we look up lead capture, the only thing that shows up, right? Oh, okay. CRM. Okay, so it looks like it doesn't actually look up the tags here, but you could filter for the tags. That's what I'm thinking here. So you could take the tags. You could say lead capture, the lead capture right there. So you can see how powerful it is to have these automations. You can build them, etc. So this is for you as a partner, and it connects so many things about Vendasta. We could have done this for an onboarding campaign when a product is activated, right? That would be pretty awesome. Okay, so automations are great for you. It ties together the entire Vendasta ecosystem. The one thing that I'd say is it is really easy to get addicted to building automations. But what I actually think is the most crucial thing is build a process that you want first, then automate it. Make sure that it works, right? So before you go and you add these two campaigns to the automation, try it manually once, twice, three times, just to make sure that it's running the way that you expect. Because once you start setting this out 500 times, if you notice, oh, there's some spelling errors in there. Oh, that's the wrong contact information. You're going to feel really bad. Okay. So test it manually, build it automatically. That's the entire uh, thing for automations here. Cool. All right. If you have questions, let me know as they come up. I'm going to assume that you don't for this moment because I haven't seen anything come in. But what I do want to say is, uh, you know, if you've learned something here, if you've seen something, just drop a two in the chat so I know it's some feedback, right? And hopefully this has gotten you to that level two understanding where uh you now have seen you have an understanding of automations and what you're trying to do. You get the concept. They might be new, but now you could set one up. Hopefully we get you beyond that hump. Okay. Now, a couple of us were in this area where you've set some automations up already in your own business, but you may not have set them up for your clients. And so that's where I want to take us next. So I want to take us to our good friends, rabbit groomers. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just navigate to their account. I'm going to go to companies here. I'm going to look up rabbit groomers and see here. Okay. Actually, all right. Here we are. So here we have the rabbit groomers business app. This is what your clients would log into, etc. Now you can set up automations for them, or they can set up automations themselves. Likely, unless they're really techie, they're not going to be setting up automations for themselves, or they're going to need some training on the automation system themselves to do it. So if you've got somebody who's technical, who's willing to put in the work, roll up their sleeves, they could do this all themselves. But here's a cool business strategy for you. Okay. You can sell automations and automation maintenance to your clients. It costs nothing currently to run automations. And if we do charge for it in the future, it will be small. And so if you have you know, maybe it's a uh, uh, missed call, or maybe like web capture email campaign sort of a thing, you could charge $25 a month for that. And so you can actually sell automations that have no wholesale cost. You can charge for it monthly. So you're getting paid $300 a year for an automation that takes you 2, 3 clicks to build. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you have to price it like that, but I'm just saying that you can sell automations. It can be an extension of the work you do. And I think it's a very interesting angle. Or you can just use it to increase the value of everything that's in front of them. Powerful stuff. So getting into the automations, really great. Now, I built out an automation. And if you remember from the session 2 weeks ago, to the day, I think 2 weeks ago to the day, I showed you an automation that I built that I think is super useful for this client. So it's rabbit groomers. Now, if you remember rabbit groomers, they do rabbit grooming. They don't do cat grooming. They don't do dog grooming. Uh, they have lots of people coming to them. If you look at the inbox at any given time, right, we can see that there was a phone call a couple of minutes ago. We can go look at the phone call transcript, and we could go and take a look here and another call. Okay. And so we had a conversation here. We have all their information. They were interested about grooming and things like that. Now, if we go over to the contact, looks like they gave us a fake phone number. They were probably just testing it out. Now, we have a summary of that call. The caller, Kevin, reached out to inquire about availability for booking a grooming appointment. He expressed interest in scheduling an appointment with a preferred date of May 24th at 11 a.m. The next steps are for the team to follow up with Kelvin, shortly to confirm the availability of the appointment and finalize the bookings. We can see that they actually called a little bit earlier too, where uh, they didn't provide any information. So this is somebody just testing our system. But the idea is, and I'm showing this for you, Kyler, that all of that context is there. Now, what's really interesting is if you look at the top here, you'll actually see the task system at work. So I actually have this assigned to me as a sales task. I'll show you why it's part of the automation. But let's say I reached out to him. I could click complete. I reach out to Lewis. I reach out to Polly. I reach out to, well, we didn't have a name for that one. I call Amanda. You see, I've got all these sales tasks here, and it takes me from page to page to page in the CRM. Again, it is fantastic to use our sales task system. Okay, so what happens here? Well, this was created via web chat, and Amanda came in inquiring about a grooming service uh, for her rabbit. She's interested in booking an appointment. She asked if it can handle a 500-pound rabbit. I clarified that we can only groom rabbits up to 100 pounds. So we have that in our knowledge. So she provided a phone number and gave an email. You can also view the conversation to see exactly what was said. And so I can go here, and I'm now looking at the actual conversation that occurred. This all happened over web chat. So all of this gets logged here. I could respond with SMS or WhatsApp. This is not an inbox session. We already covered that. So I'm not going to take us there again. But so, okay, I've got the entire conversation in front of me. But look at this. They were added to this list. So added to new customer has rabbits. Okay. So I built out a list in the CRM that looks for new customers that have rabbits. It's a very, it's very straightforward, right? If has rabbits is true and created before this quarter, add them to this list. And so I have everybody who has said that they have rabbits. If they say they have dogs or cats, they don't get added to this list. Very useful, right? But how does this actually get updated? As rabbits is true. We're not manually updating, it's doing it automatically. If I say automatically, you should lean in and say automations. Automatically, right? So if we look here on the business app, I created an automation here. We click on the automation section. There's all kinds of automations here, all sorts of stuff. And so, but I built one here called Does Web Chat Lead Have Rabbits? And so one of the things I have to do is determine through their chat if they do or do not have rabbits. Because I set up a custom field to the contact that's called has rabbits. It's either true or false. It can only be those two values. And so when web chat captures a lead, we wait for 1 minute and then we send a prompt to the AI. And so what it does is it takes the entire chat that they've had. I say, please read the live chat, answer with one word, yes or no, without quotations. And so I send this to AI and it will respond with yes or no. Now, if it responds to yes, I want it to do the following things. So if it says yes, I want it to find the contact. I want to update the contact as rabbits to yes. And if they, if the answer is no, then it will go through and it will actually say has rabbits is no. Now, I'm only interested in folks who have rabbits because we're rabbit groomers, but it's still good to know if they have other animals in case we expand our operations. So let's scroll down. I'm not going to do anything else if they don't have rabbits. I'm actually just going to leave it there. But if they do have rabbits, I will create an opportunity, rabbit customer opportunity. I will create a sales task and assign it to Brady Lang, and that's it. So every time a web chat lead comes in, you could go to rabbitgroomers.com, you could have a conversation with it, and it will sort you. It will go through the sorting hat and it will say if you have rabbits or don't, and you will get added to my task list or you won't. You can imagine this for a group of contractors who might have roofing jobs, plumbing jobs. Maybe you're just creating uh, opportunities in the correct pipelines. So let's take a look. If I go to the opportunities view, we know that we're adding in all of these different opportunities. And we could probably find Amanda in here. Amanda. Wow, perfect. So here is Amanda. We created an opportunity here. It's worth $250. That's the lifetime value of most of our customers. I'd say it's probably 325. But that's lifetime value. We've got a lot of people who come in only once or never come in. Or come in for something small. And so we're now tracking this opportunity. And this is all done automatically. And so what's really cool is, hey, once we have Amanda here, so once we have Amanda and we've set the appointment, we can drag her to the appointment set portion. And then we could put on closed one, where if she comes through and with her rabbit, we could put on closed one, which will set a reminder that will go off, a month or two later to remind her to bring her rabbits back in for another grooming. This is how we can use automations to do all sorts of things. And we have you can have multiple pipelines. You can build out different pipelines. So you can have a pipeline that's for rabbit grooming, one that's for rabbit boarding, etc. You can have automations, funnel the opportunities into the right places. You could keep notes on these different opportunities. What it does is it takes all the things that should be happening within the CRM and makes it automagic. And that's what you can do for your clients. And you can charge a lot for that. And if you do a couple of these things for them, you will you'll be so sticky. You'll be such a big part of their business that uh, even if they were to go on and try other marketing services, right? So, things like marketing services, if they're not happy with those results, it's kind of not very painful to switch to somebody else. But when you own their data, their CRM, they can't really switch from you. That's why everything tries to bundle CRMs into it. But the thing is you have a CRM that's actually connected to everything that they use. Now, extremely powerful. Now, with our automations here, you can see that what we did is we took parts of the system that we knew about and we just threaded it all together to create something. I have one here that, when I manually activate this, it sends a webhook to our Zapier and it just sends it to a Google Sheet. So I have a Google Sheet where anytime I do this with a contact, it sends it to Zapier, which is great. But yeah, our automation system's really powerful. You can set them up for your clients. So hopefully that takes you towards that level 3 understanding where, hey, I can set it up for myself, maybe even level 4, where you start to see how it's possible for your clients. And again, we have a lot of really great recipe cards here. So if you have, right, like we have one here, which is engage web chat leads. So it will send an SMS or a plain text email, send a prompt to AI. So you can see that this is a really complex automation. Notifies a user, right? Waits till it's a weekday. Uh, those sorts of things. When a webhook is called, find or create a contact. If you want to talk to other systems, you need to likely use Zapier webhooks, those sorts of things. We do have some integrations. Really quickly, I'll review those. And I do see a question here, which I'll be happy to answer. So if we scroll down here, you'll see that we have some integrations. So when a Clio Matter is closed, Field Edge, Ginger, House Call Pro, Jobber Pro, Jobber, Job Nimbus, Lightspeed, MindBody, Paw Loyalty, Pet Exec, Pet Resort Pro, Pro Tractor, QuickBooks, Shop Monkey, Shop Boss, Service Monster, Service Fusion, RVCS, Shopware. When things are happening in those systems, maybe things happen in our system. So you can see how that works. And you always have Zapier. So you really have the flexibility to connect this with anything. You have both the webhook and Zapier, which will give you the ultimate flexibility when it comes to workflows. If you don't know what Zapier is, it is a service that is not in the Vendasta ecosystem, but it is something that connects different services together in an easier, more digestible way. So that's the overall idea of Zapier. It still takes work, it's still technical, but it does make it a lot easier. Now, somebody asked a question here. Do you know if Zapier is free for uses like this? Uh, I am actually not sure on the pricing. Also, there could be regional pricing. There's things that I am not fully sure of. I know that they have some, I think they have a free plan. Yeah, I just looked it up. They do have a free plan that will give you two-step zaps. So very, very simple things like the one that I built. Good enough. Here's a thing that you should know. If you do set this up for a client, every client should have their own Zapier. You're going to connect to their Zapier specifically. You can't have one Zapier account that manages all clients. So it's just a best practice with Zapier that I know of. Just because one of our partners asked that recently. So I hope that answers your question there. Awesome. Cool. Okay. So now, I don't expect you, like, if I asked you, hey, can you build out what Brady just built from this? Yes, you could go look at the recording and you could slowly reverse engineer it. I don't expect you to do that, right? But I hope you see what's possible for your clients and that gets you to lean in a little bit more. Now, if you look at the poll really quickly that I sent out a bit earlier here, I asked, hey, what level of understanding do you have? And it goes up to I write webhooks, connect with APIs, run multiple different systems in tandem for both clients and myself. Uh, or you're setting this up for clients and yourself, right? How do you get to those levels of understanding? That would be a great question. And the thing is, this session has a time limit. I can't actually get you to those levels of understanding, but we actually have something dedicated on Wednesdays, every single Wednesday at this time slot, called Workflow Wednesdays. And Workflow Wednesdays is an ongoing webinar where our partners meet up with some Vendasta experts to discuss automations. And so I think hopefully I will be able to attend this over the next couple of weeks. I usually can't because I run the boot camps. But coming to these sessions are awesome. This is how you're going to take your knowledge and have it not so it's background knowledge, but actually actively pushing. Sometimes they'll cover things that are going to be relatively easy. Other times they're going to be pushing into things like multi-location and working in through multiple other external systems. So the complexity will range, and this is the way that you will go from automation informed to automation expert. And here's the deal, okay? I think that there is an evolution happening for marketing agencies where automations, AI, they need to be baked in and you need to make it easier for your clients. There's no better way to do this than through using the automation system in Vendasta. It's just everything's already tied into it and it will really bring out the power of the entire system. I can already, when I'm working with different types of when I'm getting like a haircut, when I'm going out and looking at things at a dance studio, I'm imagining all the ways that I could automate that business through Business App. It's just taken over my mind, and I want you to get to that point too. But my friends, that's going to take us to the end of today. We've run out of time. So what I recommend you do is check out Workflow Wednesdays if you want to continue on the deep dive here. I just shared the link. Now, Kyler is saying, just summarizing, I need to know every question that the customer has for a client's company and create responses that are appropriate to their industries. Understand that AI can learn their web page, but for specifics that aren't openly there, I need to essentially figure out all the questions and responses. It's a great thought, Kyler. I think that you would be surprised at how smart the AI is and how many assumptions it can make, right? It knows the business category. It knows the business details because it's coming from the business app and we do train it on that information. So it doesn't start from nothing. We also have like pre-programming in there to make it more effective. So You can consider what we've done the first 60%. Okay. This is a 60/40 rule, not an 80/20. The first 60%. Now, that last 40%, you don't need to know everything off the top. What you do need to do is invest your time into watching how it responds. And when it's wrong, you add a Q&A. When it's correct, uh, you leave it. Or maybe you add some text to it so it can understand that that's correct. Maybe you liked what it said. You didn't even think that it could say that. You add it into the instructions. So instead, it's not that you try to get it all perfect off the first go, right? It's kind of, I really like to think of it as training an employee. AI is an employee, right? This is your AI workforce. And so if you're training that AI, uh, the chances of having a perfect hire that knows everything about your business is it's impossible, right? It's just not going to happen. But you could instruct them and help correct them over time. And so invest in it like that. Like this is an assistant that's been hired and you just need to correct them every once in a while instead of talking to them and hoping they remember. You know they'll remember because it's AI and you're actually writing the instructions for it to follow. So uh really think of it like that and then it won't seem so insurmountable. And ultimately, you could just have it so that the AI focuses on capturing lead information and promising to reach out after, right? The most basic function of it, you could just whittle it down to I don't want you answering questions. I actually just want you capturing their information and letting them know that we'll reach out to them with a quote, et cetera, within 24 hours. Great. It will do that just fine. So, tons of flexibility. Getting it right from the start is impossible. And, if people are telling you it's possible, they're lying. So I hope that kind of helps build some of those things out. Anyways, everybody, I want to thank you so much for coming. We have one more session together. It's SEO. I'm going to demystify SEO across products and across the system. I'll talk. If you don't know things about SEO, I will help you understand SEO. If you do know SEO, I'm going to demystify Vendasta, the products around SEO. I think I'll teach you a thing or two too. All right. Thanks, everybody. I want you to stay awesome. Keep conquering local. I'll see you when I see you. I hope you got value out of today's session. You did. Throw some threes in the chat, and that way I know. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to have you. All right, everybody. Talk soon. See you tomorrow for our last session together. Whoa. All right. Till then.